Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Ancient of Days, or just readings on June 8, 2021. It's a gloomy, windy, misty, not quite foggy, but misty day. In June, I will not be going out to pull weeds today unless the wind dies down and the air warms up. We have a nor'easter. It's coming out of the north and east. Mostly breezy, but an occasional gust that'll chill your bones. So, of course, the cats are outside because they have fur coats. I don't. Oh, Lord. Most of my gray hair seems to have shed out. It's almost brown today. That'll change. Hi, Jan. Let's see. Get my cursor in the box and type. There, here we go. Um, I have a ride to the grocery store in about an hour, so that's why it's a quickie today. I need some food. I'm kind of tired. I fell asleep too early yesterday, so I got up too early today. And once you open your eyes even a little slit, the cat notices and will not let you go back to sleep. Gay Pride Month, okay. Didn't know that. I did know that 2 days ago, June 6th, was the 77th anniversary of D Day, and the president didn't even mention it. I don't remember any president ever failing to mention D Day, June 6th, 1944, when the Allies landed on the coast of Normandy and began the liberation of France from the Nazis. Thousands died. I think almost 5,000 is the latest estimate. They weren't that good at record keeping. And about 2,500 American troops died, most of them between like 18 and 22 years old. It was horrible. And I can't help thinking that it would have been better to stop Germany sooner, like as soon as he invaded Poland, or even before that. I think he invaded what is now, oh God, it isn't anymore. It became Czechoslovakia, and now it's two or three separate countries, the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and I think one other. Anyway, the Sudetenland, the southern land. If Russia had, well, actually, the Soviet Union, my bad, had not agreed to not quite an alliance, more of a peace treaty with Germany, if England had not tried to appease Hitler, if there'd been an intervention early on, we might not have had World War II. And of course, the United States didn't want to be involved in a foreign war. Wow. It isn't as if we hadn't done things like that before. The Spanish American War was primarily fought on foreign soil. The World War One, we defeated Germany then, but World War Two um, didn't have to happen. Hi, Beacon and Oswald and Tim. I'll just type hello, everyone. There we go. Anyway, I will be cutting out a little early today because I need groceries and my ride is due to pick me up at 10. Well, about an hour from now. Probably a few minutes before or after 10, but around then. Hmm. Anyway, I was going to read from the Bible today. I promised someone that I would, and he isn't here, but he can listen to the replay if he doesn't come in. So let's look at Daniel chapter 5. It's relevant. Daniel 5 ESV, the English Standard Version. Uh, Here we go. The handwriting on the wall. I'm seeing a lot of that lately. Maybe you haven't heard because our mainstream at reporting what's happening. Justice John Roberts is under investigation. Evil phone. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, is under investigation for some kind of sexual misconduct. Let me see what the stinking phone wants. Nothing important. And of course, there's the ever present Hunter Biden's laptop. Uh, okay, there's Trump under investigation in New York. For tax evasion. I guess the IRS is after him too, but it's mostly New York, which has their own labyrinthine tax system. And I'm sure that all Trump does is give his financial records to his accountant and then sign the tax forms. But that is apparently not an excuse. Um, I don't make enough to even owe taxes. So I'm very grateful for those of you who have sent me some PayPal lately. I've actually had to run the heater at least once a week. It's gotten so cold, even though it's almost summer. I did expect a long, cold winter, but all of the spring has been weird. Okay, let's get to Daniel chapter 5. Let me put the link in case you want to follow along. Remember, Daniel became a trusted advisor to King Nebuchadnezzar, but after his death, Belshazzar became king of Babylon. King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords. He always left out the women, shame on them, and drank wine in front of the 1,000. I think it's the previous chapter. Oh, no, it's this one. Verse 2 Belshazzar, when he tasted the wine, commanded that the vessels of gold and of silver that Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem be brought, that the king and his lords, his wives, his concubines might drink from them. Nebuchadnezzar had the good sense to leave all the holy relics in a sort of museum, uh, his stash of various captured holy items. Nebuchadnezzar angered God by bringing them to his palace and drinking from them. So let's see what happens. Verse 3 Then they brought in the golden vessels that had been taken out of the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. So they used God's wine cups, wine glasses, to praise idols and pagan gods. Verse 5 Immediately the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace opposite the lampstand, and the king saw the hand as it wrote. Then the king's color changed, and his thoughts alarmed him. His limbs gave way, and verse 7 the king called loudly to bring in the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and the astrologers. The king declared to the wise men of Babylon, Whoever reads this writing and shows me its interpretation shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around his neck and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Okay, purple was worn only by royalty. I'm peeking at the chat. Timothy Wilson has come in. Okay, not to be confused with Tim Greenglass. All right, now back to the handwriting on the wall. Purple in those days was made from the a very special sea snail, and it would take like 1,000 snails to get enough purple dye for the hem of a robe. So a purple robe would be fantastically expensive and worn only by royalty. Kind of overshadows the chain of gold. Verse 8 Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing or make known to the king the interpretation. Then King Belshazzar was greatly alarmed, and his color changed, and his lords were perplexed. The queen, because of the words of the king and his lords, came into the banqueting hall, and the queen declared, O king, live forever. Let not your thoughts alarm you or your color change. There is a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And there's a footnote here. Oh, or the Spirit of the Holy God. Maybe an S on the end, maybe not. Let's see. Let me find where I was. Okay, so we're in the middle of verse 11. In the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, enchanters, Chaldeans, and astrologers, because an excellent spirit, knowledge, and understanding to interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve problems were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king answered and said to Daniel, "You are that Daniel, one of the exiles of Judah, whom the king my father brought from Judah. I have heard of you that the Spirit of the gods is in you," or the Spirit of God. Another footnote. "And that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the enchanters, have been brought in before me to read this writing and make known to me its interpretation. But they could not show the interpretation of the matter. But I have heard that you can give interpretations and solve problems. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom." Well, Daniel ain't having it. He isn't going to rule a pagan kingdom under a king who's so godless as to drink and get drunk from the vessels of God's temple. So, verse 17. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, "Let your gifts be for yourself, and give your rewards to another. Nevertheless, I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation. O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father kingship and greatness and glory and majesty. And because of the greatness that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he killed, and whom he would, he kept alive. Whom he would, he raised up, and whom he would, he humbled. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit was hardened, so that he dealt proudly, he was brought down from his kingly throne, and his glory was taken from him. This will need a little explanation. You might remember that Nebuchadnezzar was made to eat grass for several years. I got an important message, of course. Okay, I just said wow. Doesn't take long. Anyway, then Nebuchadnezzar recovered. Nebuchadnezzar actually worshipped the God of Israel. So there. Verse 20. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit was hardened so that he dealt proudly, he was brought down from his kingly throne, and his glory was taken from him. He was driven from among the children of mankind, and his mind was made like that of a beast, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. He was fed grass like an ox, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, until he knew that the Most High God rules the kingdom of mankind and sets over it whom he will. And you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, though you knew all this, but you have lifted up yourself against the Lord of heaven, and the vessels of his house have been brought in before you, and you and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see or hear or know, but the God in whose hand is your breath, and whose are all your ways, you have not honored. Then from his presence the hand was sent, and this writing was inscribed. And this is the writing that was inscribed: Mene, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin. I was always told it was Mina, Mina, Shekalu, Farsi, but I've heard it different ways many times from people who ought to know. So, anyway, verse 26. This is the interpretation of the matter. Mene, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been made into, and here he says Perez. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. So see, he's weighed in the balance and found wanting. The balance says, verse 29, then Belshazzar gave the command, and Daniel was clothed with purple. A chain of gold was put around his neck, and a proclamation was made about him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. And Daniel didn't want the gifts. He said no, and they did it anyway. Verse 30, that very night Belshazzar the Chaldean king was killed, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old. Okay, let's see. All right. Once again, I need to thank everybody who has sent me little PayPal donations. They really help. And if you can't or don't want to send PayPal, you can still email me words of encouragement. I don't always find the time to, sorry, cat hair. I don't always find the time to reply, but I do read my emails. And of course, it's Kitty's Cats 777 at gmail.com. That 777 began back in the days of AOL when I added the number 7 to my name for my email, and it said, nope, already taken. So I added 77, 2 sevens. Nope, already taken. So I tried 3 sevens and I got it. And then my older and smarter brother complained that he couldn't get it because someone already took it. I told him he could always, you know, try 4 sevens, but instead he added some other letters. Anyway, we don't, or at least I don't use AOL anymore. I had Earthstink for a while. Remember Earthlink? had to pay for it, but no, you still have to pay. I mean, Earthlink included dial-up internet and an email. Uh, they just got too expensive for me. So now I'm on Gmail, which is free. I might switch to something else. I tried Yahoo and I tried one whose name I've forgotten, but it was like you could get free internet. It was very limited. And if you paid, you could get a little more internet, but you had to watch a lot of ads. And I soon discovered that it took them between 3 days and a full week just to send one of my emails. And that just wouldn't do when I was trying to send urgent documents or information. Anyway, let's see. Well, we're only at 9:20. So, Daniel chapter 5 was awesome, and it's been compared primarily by David Berlinski, a secular Jew who just doesn't believe in the theory of evolution, but won't go so far as to believe in God. Well, he compares this handwriting on the wall, this "you are weighed in the balances and found wanting," with the attitude of modern scientists that if you don't have a degree behind your name, and it has to be a degree in the sciences, so my master's in English literature doesn't count, and they'd prefer a PhD anyway. If you don't have that degree, like a doctorate of some kind of science, you have no business having any opinion about scientific theories. You are weighed in the balances and found wanting. Well, yeah, right. Tiny bit of chocolate so I can talk without grossing you out. Um, wow. Well, I studied pre medicine for 3 years. And even then, our professors were telling us things that you don't get in the mainstream press. Problems with what the mainstream press, written by and for laymen, laypersons, the laity, that right there should tell you that science scientists have formed a priesthood. The laity is usually the congregation in the church, the non priests. Well, they don't tell you this. Maybe they don't even know it since it's so difficult to access the peer reviewed literature that scientists are always calling upon. Oh, it isn't peer reviewed, and you don't have a degree. You aren't a scientist. How many degrees did Aristotle have? Or Copernicus? Or Kepler? Or Newton? Well, Newton had some college education. I don't think he had a doctorate in anything. We're all scientists. We all explore the world from the day we're born and perhaps before then. Let's see, do I still use? Timothy, I still use Tuffy 777, but it gets so filled up with spam and junk mail that isn't exactly spam, but I keep forgetting to unsubscribe. You know, you buy a Who's It or a What's It, and that website sends you ads every darn day, sometimes twice a day. That, yeah, I still have two other emails that I use. Uh, but the kitties cats is you're less likely to get lost in the shuffle. And it's also my best email for PayPal. But, you know, it isn't necessary to send me money. I try to respond to emails. And when I get PayPal, most often it does not give me your email address, so I can't like reply and say thank you. Anyway, yeah, sure. Um, Tuffy 777 is the one that gets the most filled with stuff. And my third one, um, I don't check it very often, but when I do, it's fairly clean because I try to limit it to business correspondence. By the way, I've been I'll be writing another story for the next anthology. I have a story in Mirror Maze. Took me a minute. Let's see. So after Mirror Maze, published by Fractured Mirror and Mirror, Fractured Mirror, and containing my story, The Mirror Cracked, they will have Somnoscope. So I'm assuming it will be about dreams. Let's see. So I need to write a story for that one. I also have a story in progress for, it's been paid for, so I really need to finish it. But it might become a series about people who encounter a very special mural, but I can't tell you much about it. I'm not allowed to, but we'll see. Um, yeah, you should be able to buy Mirror Maze just about anywhere. Let me see if I can find the link. Here we go. Mirror Maze, a Dreampunk anthology. You can buy it directly from the publisher. It's $16.99, so basically $17 for the paperback. There is no hardcover. And you should be able to buy it anywhere in the world. It has, I think, 22 stories by 20 authors, something like that, and they're all really fascinating stories. It's a good read. Not just my story, but the whole book. Oh, wow. Anyway, there's sort of. Well, Mirror Maze is dream punk. So the genre I'm typing is called dream punk. Kind of a joke because another sort of a subgenre of fantasy and science fiction is called steampunk because it's set in a time and place where they used steam power because they didn't have gasoline and electricity, at least not as a common source of energy. So not only trains were powered by burning coal to make steam. I got hiccups, darn it, sorry. But the factories used steam engines and electricity existed, but you didn't have it in your home. Things like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and most of the work of Jules Verne would be considered steampunk. So it's basically from the Victorian era and maybe slightly before that. So dream punk is a sort of pun, but it focuses on dreams. What, Tora? Do you want to say hi to your fans? Come here, sweetie pie. She's getting big and heavy. Look at that kitty cat. Isn't she gorgeous? Look at that. See the kitty in the mirror? She says, I don't like that. Ah, yeah, it's okay. It isn't a cat. Now, Tora is in the doghouse, even though she's a cat. She brought in a lizard, and I think she's adopted it as a pet because she hasn't killed it. She just brought in this live lizard and plopped it on the rug, and I was unable to either catch it or chase it out. From time to time, she sees it and kind of paws at it a little, but she hasn't. Yeah, I think she has it as a pet. She isn't interested in killing it. What? What? I gave you treats. I gave you fresh water. I filled your food dish. You licked the juice off and didn't eat the food. It's okay. The mendicant cat, the one that comes to the door and begs, even though he doesn't live here, he finished off Tora's food that she didn't eat. He seems to be sleeping somewhere in my yard or in the shed. I've deliberately left out places where a stray cat could shelter overnight or when in the weather because I have Sweetie, the feral kitty who after almost 12 years, still does not trust me. But over the winter, she stayed inside the house and didn't even try to go out. Now that it's warmer, at least if you have a fur coat like a cat, Sweetie won't come in. She'll come in and eat a little and then run back outside in case I'm planning to shut the door. Rotten cat. 12 years. I mean, she was born here. I know how old she is. I know when she was born. Rotten cat. She doesn't trust me. I think it's more that she doesn't want to stay inside than that she isn't really scared of me because once in a while she bumps against my leg if I haven't pawed out the treats fast enough. And she'll approach if she really wants her kitty cat treats. Huntora, are you a good girl? There you go. Cats. I really wanted a dog, but one vet bill would ruin me. I don't think I could afford the regular rabies shots and license fees for a dog. You don't have to do that for a cat. The stimulus check did help, but see, I had uncovered medical bills, so that's where most of that money went. One of the hospitals is still billing me, and it's over $800. Well, that's more than I have for an entire month's income. Oh, and I did my taxes, and my income for last year was less than $100 um, for the year. It was really bad. Of course, that was taxable income. I do have Social Security, but it's just $1 less than 600 a month. $599. But I do have Medicare and a supplement from California's Medicaid, which they call Medi-Cal. But for some reason, and I don't understand, I've been to the emergency room before, and the bill was always around 1,000 or 1,200. This time it was over $4,000. So yeah, part of it was covered, but I'm still being billed for over $800. Uh, I don't know why or what makes them think I can pay it. I'm trying to find a charity that will help. I mean, the hospital that actually treated my broken hip billed me for a little over 600, but this emergency room, I'm supposed to pay over 800. Well, hello, Buckeye. Um, I'm just, I can't pay. pay that. I don't have it. And it's only with a little help from the stimulus check that I've kept all the utilities on after an extremely cold winter. With the price of gas for heating going through the roof much more than last year. Same for water and electricity. Well, there's Sweetie. Hi, you. Occasionally glancing at me to make sure that I'm not going to. My connection is unstable. Give me my mouse. Now, I'm connected and secured. What's the problem? Look at her. Ah, my connection is unstable. I don't know how long I was waiting for them to reconnect me. It's been half an hour since I managed to hold on to it. It's slippery, and it's my internet connection for today. It's been more than half an hour since I mentioned anything political, and suddenly my connection is unstable. I think what they do is throttle my service on YouTube while they get a human to look over the key words that I might have said. And give me a break. I don't like either one of them. But if I had to choose, I think I'd rather have the orange man right now. Our president didn't even mention D-Day. Sunday was the 77th anniversary of D-Day. Oh, and by the way, Buckeye, I went over the book of Daniel while you were absent. I went over chapter 5, the handwriting on the wall. You see, if you're weighed in the balances and found wanting. If you don't have a doctorate degree in science, you have no right to an opinion because scientists say so. They're the priests, and we're just the laymen or lay persons or lay women or the laity. I refuse to worship in the hallowed halls of science. When you actually study it and you pay attention, you find that, first of all, in the peer-reviewed literature, those horridly expensive journals that don't even pay their authors hide the truth behind a paywall. But if you get access or you know someone who does have access, you find out that Darwin's theory of evolution has been modified over and over, and now they call it the modern synthesis or neo Darwinism. It has all kinds of problems. You might have heard of the Cambrian explosion when hundreds, maybe thousands of new species just appeared from nowhere, and they couldn't find their predecessors in lower layers of sediment. And they could not find the um, ancestors that were evolving into these new species. Well, it seems to me that just because they don't want to look at around the world about major floods, huge floods, which laid down lots of layers of sediment in a relatively melted from the melting at the end of it, but not millions of years of evolution, but many layers. And maybe that's how so many dead dinosaurs and people came to be buried in caves. In some cases, caves that are so difficult to get into. The spaces are so. Maybe they were tossed there by a major flood. In an argument by telling your opponent to shut up. One of my ancestors was a black African slave, but I have pink skin, so I must be a white woman. Oh, Lord. Of course, my connection went unstable. My connection went unstable as soon as you mentioned Trump. Can't type and talk at the same time. Come on, give me my mouse. There. My concern about Trump is this cult of personality. I'd be happy with, let's say, in 2024 with Ted Cruz and Ron DeSantis, or that freshman senator from Louisiana named John Kennedy. He speaks plainly using English words that everybody can understand. And he speaks slowly so you can hear what he's saying. Besides, I just love the southern drawl. He's precious. He's adorable. Too bad he's too young for me. I'm probably already married anyway. And there are lots of other politicians. This is not about Trump. This is about the American people. Our border is wide open. And the people coming across, for the most part, are suffering, especially the children. It isn't right. They were probably better off in their home countries. We could always have some, it's usually a non governmental organization, NGO, go down there with food and clothing. Whenever we send money, their elites just skim off most of the money for their mansions and their servants and their luxuries. So let's send food, clothing, clean water. Do like the missionaries do in Africa. If they don't have access to clean water, help them to dig a well and show them how they can do it so that when you're gone, if that well goes dry, they can make another one. Give them a goat or two to raise for milk. Give them some chickens. Trust me, chickens are easy to raise. They'll eat anything. And chicken eggs are nutritious. So are chickens. Although I'm sick and tired of chicken throughout the pandemic, I've been eating a lot of chicken, some fish, and now beef. The price of beef has skyrocketed. And yet, the ranchers who raise beef cattle are losing money. They're selling their cattle for less than their cost because they can't keep feeding them. So, someone in the middle between the rancher and the grocery store is making all the profit, and the prices are going up. Why? Well, they can't get enough people working in the slaughterhouses to process all this beef, and they can't afford to keep feeding them either. Maybe it's time to eat less meat in general. I haven't found a good way to get enough protein without some meat in my diet, some fish, some chicken. I could tell by the condition of my hair and my fingernails that I needed more protein. And yes, I can get it from gelatin, but guess what gelatin is made of? Like jello. Uh, it's mostly the bones of the cattle that they slaughter. So I'm still not really vegetarian if I eat jello. Um, if you're really serious about being a vegetarian, you want aspic to thicken things. It's from seaweed. But let's see, who was it? Was it Aristotle or no, I don't remember. One of the Greek philosophers would not eat beans because he believed that his best friend had been reincarnated as a bean. Oop, I'm at the limit here. Any minute now, my ride to the grocery store will be here. So I need to say goodbye and pack up the computer because it's the only thing worth um, stealing in this house so it doesn't stay. Pythagoras, thank you, Richard. Yeah, Pythagoras believed that his friend had been reincarnated as a bean plant. And as promised, I did go over chapter 5 of Daniel today. I did some Bible reading. So if you missed it, you need to go back and listen to the replay. And thanks again, everybody. Here we go.